Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic Podcast.
The show where you learn how to grow and scale your brands, as well as understand various important nuances like skin flooding and how important it is to your daily skincare routine.
Daily skincare routine. I never knew that you had to exfoliate twice a week. That was a big revelation in our conversation yesterday. Exfoliation. I'm Ralph Burns, big believer in exfoliation and the founder of Tier 11.
And I am Lauren E. Petrullo, the founder of Mongoose Media and a long-term exfoliant advocate. Welcome to... Look, Ralph,
Why are we talking about hair care products and like skincare products here?
Because yesterday we had this amazing episode that we did with some awesome people, and you mistook my fulfillment center as a library, and you opened yourself up.
Yeah. So we're giving you a hint of future episodes here. We're doing a 3-episode series with a very large advertising platform that sought out Perpetual Traffic, and we figured out a way to create a 3-episode series to talk to you about that platform and how it's used. And that platform just so happens to be the one that's in the news quite a bit. So you can sort of piece everything together. And that's all I can say about that for right now. So
and it's really good.
And it's really good. Yeah. And we recorded yesterday the second part of that. So we're pretty excited about that. And we did talk a lot about skincare products. So that's still lingering in today's show.
Yeah.
Where we're not going to be talking about skin products, but other types of important things
that get under your skin when they're not looked at wrong.
That's right. They're right under the skin. They're not the surfacey things that you see on the outside, right? It's not the in-app ROAS that everybody looks at. And we're going to be talking about marketing performance indicators again today, and going a little bit deeper. And we've got some pretty cool resources here. Obviously, we've talked about this for a number of shows. This is our theme. This is our sermon. What do you refer to it as? I forget the religious implications here. What you were talking about?
You're on. You're still on. I can't get past. I'm now thinking like, if you're looking at in-app ROAS, that's like your pimples of marketing. Like they're exploding gross, pus-filled, useless things that you don't want in your face, and it's gonna like besmirch your strategies if you're only looking at in-app metrics and not business metrics, like what we're talking about.
It's like the dead skin that you haven't been able to exfoliate away. It's like
that's like the bad media buyer or marketing person that is only looking at those in-app metrics that you need to exfoliate away.
Just slough them off. That's it. If you've got media buyers that are talking to you only about ROAS, think about you just need to exfoliate them away because they're just living in 2013, 14, 15, 16, right? Is that our skincare analogy to I don't even know where we're going on this one, but we're just going with it.
3-step beauty routine to a clean and healthy ad report.
Absolutely.
1, exfoliate useless media buyers that are not working on your business objectives.
Yeah.
2,
we want to talk about the real stuff here. So anyway, the real stuff is actually a download you can get in this series. And I don't know how long we're going to continue to talk about this sort of stuff. The reason why we're doing this is because it's so freaking important, Lauren E. Petrullo, and nobody is talking about it. I think that the funny thing is I have spoken with a number of my agency colleagues, and they're like, we're seeing this being brought up more. And I don't know if that's necessarily because of this show per se. I listen to a lot of the other marketing podcasts. Nobody's talking about this sort of stuff, which is fine. But I think that's one of the reasons why you're here. And the reasons why you're here is that we're going to give you the actual stuff we're using inside our businesses. We both operate pretty damn successful agencies for some really high profile customers. And we've got a pretty damn good partnership with one of the largest advertising platforms on the planet. And you and I have a great relationship with Meta. So there is a lot here. So anyway, I'm not tooting our own horn, but I'm saying if you're not hearing about this and you're hearing it here, is a reason, because We believe this is the most important thing in marketing right now. Because if you're not looking at this,
did you pound that when you did? I'm not going to toot the horn, but boom.
I'm pounding. I've got a wood table here. I'm pounding it. I'm pounding the desk, and you got to get these MPIs over at perpetualtraffic.com/MPI. That's M as in Mary, P as in Petrullo, I as in incredible.
I can't believe you still didn't download this.
Yeah, you haven't downloaded it yet? Well, you should. Now, we have not to give you too much, but we're going to integrate the videos that we just did on this individually with our chief strategist at Tier 11, John Moran.
Chief tinfoil hat salesman.
That's right. That's right. He exfoliates a lot, actually. He exfoliates his whole head. If you know, very shiny scalp.
Well, if he shaves his head, when you shave, you end up naturally exfoliating.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why. But anyway, so he's got good skin. The point is that he did a bunch of videos on this very subject and a few extras that didn't get to the download, and some of the ones that we're going to talk about here today. So you can get that over at tier11.com/MPI videos. So make sure that you do that. That will be incorporated into this lead magnet as we sort of continuously build this, because there's no such thing as standing still here, Lauren. We're just continuously improving. Kaizen is our motto. So get better every single day. So get that thing, download it, keep it on your desk, memorize it if you're a media buyer, show it to your boss if you're a director of marketing. Start talking this way to your CMO or to your CEO. If you're a CMO, all your people should know these metrics, because this is the wave of the future and this is how stuff gets measured. So last time we talked about sort of the first line in the marketing performance indicators download, which was CAC, MYRR, and AOV. CAC is customer acquisition cost. MYRR is, you say media efficiency ratio, I say marketing efficiency ratio, and then AOV, which is average order value. So let's just clarify. Yeah, maybe we should just clarify those three there, just so if you haven't listened to the previous episode, which we'll leave links in the show notes for, just to understand sort of what those are, because those are going to be the basis for the next three that we're going to talk about here today.
So the marketing efficiency ratio that you do, Ralph, is you include your labor. You include your marketing labor. So it makes sense if you're looking at the marketing overall. For us, we're leaning in on the media buying side. So you're culminating all of your ad spend and seeing where that is for almost like your blended global ROAS, but taking it a step further by having that into your efficiency ratio. So your use of labor makes sense. I get why business owners would want to do it. So I'm leaning in on you saying marketing efficiency ratio, where we are talking about media efficiency ratio, because at the end of the day, we're using media to buy new customers.
Yep.
But you're using marketing efficiency ratio to better explain the full investment into your marketing acquisition plan.
Right. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I really don't. And, if you go to the videos with John, it's on our YouTube channel, the Tier 11 YouTube channel. You don't have to, you should be on there anyway, because there's stuff that's being dropped in there every single day. The point is,
you guys are doing lives too.
Yeah, we're now doing lives every Friday, me and John, which is great. Just a lot of fun. He's not quite as charming as you, but he does talk 10 times faster. So
I can go way faster. I'm married to a foreigner. English is not his first language. My mother is nearing 80. I spent the last decade slowing my voice down. So if you want, I can definitely go faster.
Yeah. So you might want to slow it down on those, or speed these up so you can actually listen to how Lauren usually speaks, because she's slowing it down for me just so that I understand. No, but those are great. We'll leave links in those. Just go over to the Tier 11 YouTube, not to plug it, but the point is that I'm plugging it anyway. Who the hell cares? It's our podcast. But we have a series of 15 or 16 videos that are just all on this.
Yeah.
And the difference between MYRR, media efficiency ratio, and marketing efficiency ratio. The reason why I think marketing is because if you're a marketing department let's say you're a VP of marketing and you have your media buyers, you have your paid spend for all the stuff that they're spending to get traffic. But then you have an SEO person, you have a content person, you have an email person, you have an SMS person. You can't tell me that those aren't part of your marketing. Like I want like as a business owner, I want to see what the entire department is actually doing to produce new customers. So that's how I look at it.
I would argue you could put an SMS and email because you have like those costs associated to it. Maybe you're not like,
well, you have a person. Let's say you have a $6,000 a month person on staff that's doing SMS, or whatever it is. I would push that in because like I think of this as like a P&L. Like marketing for me is a line item. And then I figure out what that line item is. That's our media spend as well as our payroll. And a lot of our payroll is on content marketing and demand gen. And there's not a tremendous amount of ad spend, at least not right now. That will change. Obviously now with the recent changes, the point is that that's how I look at it. So, but if you want to go media is fine too. Like if that's all you're doing for a client, media efficiency ratio is perfectly fine. So the point is that you understand it and then you determine what's best for your business.
And your P&L can have 2 line items, which is like marketing labor, promotional spend for your media, or whatever. It's just, again, it's if you have to understand one thing, it's that if you're only looking at in-app numbers, you're looking at a very small frame inside a much bigger picture. And that much bigger picture is what the owner founder actually cares about. And if you're still relying heavily on what the in-app data points are telling you, while they're effective in how you're getting performance indicators on that campaign and can provide you trends into the overall growth and scaling of that account, it shouldn't be your end all be all. Like it's not your real source of truth. It's just a trending, indicating source of truth to validate continued investment into that channel. And then you can look at the MYRR, your media or marketing efficiency ratio, to understand the continuous investment in you as the agency in this area of operations, all of that.
Right. So I look at it as like, all cash in, all cash out. So when I say all cash out, I'm also paying salaries. So that's why I include it. But all cash out could just be your media spend. That's fine too. The point is it's potato as far as I'm concerned. John sees it as media, so he's on your side. So you guys, it's 2 against 1. So, but I don't think anybody actually really wins here. But the point is these metrics are the things that actually drive your business. It's not in-app ROAS. How many times do we possibly say that in-app ROAS is the pimple on the skin?
It is. It's a pimple on the prom date. Come on. I don't know how many people went to prom.
That big white head that's right in the middle, like right in your forehead.
Gosh. The third eye.
Oh my God, the third eye. All right. So the next line in marketing performance indicators, the one that I think is an important one of my favorites is nCAC. So new customer acquisition cost. Would you like to explain to the listener what nCAC is?
So previously, as we talked about, your customer acquisition cost is where you look at total money spent and you divide it by the number of customers you acquired. You can then isolate that against your new customers. And so you can see what that distribution is between new customers and returning customers so that you can truly understand if your company is growing. Because if your CAC is incorporated of predominantly returning customers, then you're paying inefficiently potentially for customers that were already going to buy from you. So looking at nCAC is really important because if you are going to scale, if you're going to introduce yourself into new markets and new opportunities, you have to see how that nCAC, new customer acquisition cost, compares to other networks so that you can determine if you're going to continue investing in another platform or not, if you're looking at like in-app numbers specifically. But when you're looking at the trend, if you're able to acquire new buyers, new customers at a constant or even at a like diminishing cost, like it's a decreasing cost, then you're able to grow and scale in ways to take that money to invest into greater loyalty and greater deliverability of your service.
Yeah. And you have to look at this, like we're just talking about what we just mentioned was sort of more all media that's digital. This could be billboards. This could be
Sure.
Newspaper advertising. I don't know who does that anymore, but apparently, there are still people that do it. Magazine ads. This could be TV ads. This could be your OTT. This could be your programmatic. This could be all of that. We're not just talking about in-app ROAS inside of Meta and Google. We start there. It could be TikTok as well. So
could be pop-ups. It's wherever your customers that you're meeting them at. You need to understand what is the average cost for you to acquire that new customer. You could do it agnostic to the channel that they're coming on. So this is everything.
So it's new and returning is CAC. nCAC is just new. And this is where people, I think, have a challenge to find out. Like, if you wanted to find what your nCAC was for a particular customer, how would you figure it out?
Okay. For a particular customer, how would I do it specifically? Well, okay, I was like, I know which specific channels I'm on. So I'm immediately going to go by channel specific. Mm-hmm. So I'll have what that is. But then if I roll it all up, I'm going to look at my entire total marketing spend, and I'm going to distribute. I'm just going to do my first initial nCAC is let's say I spent $100,000 in marketing. I acquired 10 new customers. That new customer cost me $10,000. Now, some people might be like, hey, just pull out, you spent $100,000. If you have remarketing specific campaigns, if you know that those campaigns and those initiatives weren't going after anything new, you could isolate that budget. But I'm going to do at the top line of what was my total spend? What was my total number of new customers? And then I'm going to have that nCAC number always going to be higher than my CAC number, my customer acquisition costs.
Yeah, it's typically, it is going to be higher because it's like you should not be paying more to reacquire a pre-existing customer than you are going out and finding a brand new customer.
Oh, safe to assume. There's always exceptions, Ralph.
There's always exceptions. But I think in most cases, I'm going to paint a broad brush here. That's usually the case.
You didn't,
from what I've
bite the bullet. You didn't undergo a very radical, bad PR campaign that now you're just trying to save face. I'm saying this because I have seen where people have invested more money in acquiring returning customers because they're trying to salvage from a bad mistake. And now it's look, your net new customer is a fifth of the price, and they don't know about the reputation that this previous leader imposed. So this is a different market. It's a fifth of the cost, but they made the investment. They continue to do it because they didn't want to lose that brand reputation. So anyways, I was there's always an exception.
There's always an exception. That's almost like a re-engagement campaign, bring them back from the dead.
Yeah,
because you've pissed them off and now they've switched to another brand. And how do you actually re-engage them? That's a whole other thing. That could be sort of.
I wish we had a political marketer on this episode. If someone that's in politics is listening to this, I would love to know of do you look at your cost of net new voters for your party?
Yeah.
Because there can be, we're in a presidential election here in the US. There was just a huge election in Latin America. Do you look at net new voters registered for your party in the same way that a lot of us selling services and selling e-commerce products or selling apps and SaaS are looking at net new customer acquisitions?
Or another way to look at that is net new donors. So, that is an indication. Let's look at what just happened within the last week or so.
Absolutely.
I don't know which way.
This could be aired any point before the U.S. presidential election, and that statement will still be true. Just look at what happened in the last week.
All right. So if we're talking politics here, whether you're Republican, Democrat, I don't care. Kamala Harris raised $200 million in the last 2 weeks, ever since she announced that she's taken over for Joe Biden.
Okay.
That is unbelievable. And of that, greater than 60
came in the last 48 hours.
In the last 48 hours? I don't have that stat, but I do know that 60+ % of those donors were new donors.
Whoa.
That never donated. So that is your nCAC. You've got some CAC in there, right?
And Well, I mean, it's a future one, but like that's your nAOV, your new customer AOV that's going to come into play here when we get into that. Like, I know I'm like jumping ahead a little, but
that would be, yeah, 66% is the exact figure. So nCAC, like that's new potential. Like this is going to be an interesting presidential election because I mean, I think the Democratic Party was pretty much dead in the water with Biden. I don't know where you stand politically. We've never had a political conversation, but let's not get into a political conversation here. Let's just look at that. Like that's an amazing figure. Like she has done, whether you're a fan of her or not a fan of her, I just happen to be a huge fan of her. But the point is like to raise that kind of money and to create that kind of buzz, like that's an insane amount. So she has got, like that would be her nCAC metric. I don't know what the nCAC really is. Like it doesn't break it down, but I'm sure there's some smart people within her media team that are trying to figure this sort of stuff out. So the point is nCAC is a super important number because that tells you the growth, like the future growth of your company. So if she's, she's getting 66% new donors, people who have never donated before, maybe they have, maybe they haven't, and maybe they used a different email. Like there's a lot of different ways. Let's say for the sake of argument, it's half of them. Like that is a very good indication that she will reach the goal. And the goal is November, right? The growth and more votes than the other guy who shall remain nameless. So the point is like your nCAC can be like, depending on what your industry is, like this is a super important metric. I guess what I was trying to find out from you is like, what do you use in order to determine that? Do you use a third-party application? What do you use in order to determine?
Sure. So it's going to depend on the per client, but I will say for the most part, we're going to use our source of truth as the CRM. If I'm being honest, like for Mongoose Media, it's super simple, going directly into CRM. For e-commerce brands, we're actually going to go into Klaviyo because that third-party tool, Klaviyo being the CRM and the ESP, is distributing that information for us directly. If you're looking at, I mean, I'll be selfish because I know we're talking about in-apps, but still it's a place to start, depending on the type of campaign. If you're running a sales campaign, you can actually see that distribution of existing customers and new customers directly inside the platform. That gives you an understanding of where that sits. The reason why I specifically
it's directional, not exact, right?
Exactly. Oh, I mean, of course. Ooh, don't get me started on like event match quality and like what is being
just making sure, right?
Benchmark. Pound that table. But I like looking at the ESP and the CRMs because, or even a third-party tool if you're using something like a Digio or if you're using something like a Privy for your pop-ups, because then you're actually able to create customized pop-up experiences where if you're not doing this, I highly recommend you should. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but like Jimmy Kim at Sunlane gave me a really good explainer that I look at all customers in 3 buckets. Are they a subscriber, never bought, they bought once, they bought more than once? So when you're using pop-ups that can get that information and you isolate that stuff, that's where I'll go to look at for the CRMs of new customer acquisition costs and understand who's truly new, because then there's a history of their purchase there. But then as we get later into new website visitors, new subscribers, all that, like it really comes into play when you're looking at those third-party tools like an email service provider or a pop-up to have that discrimination, because you can have visibility if someone is new to the site, if they're logged in on the site. And that's where like listening to John and like the conversations we've had, I'm like, oh, I'm adding in a new AOV number, but I won't.
So explain to people the pop-up. Like we have not talked about that here.
So the pop-up is like when you're on the website and you have a welcome offer, you have an exit intent pop-up. It's just like, and it could be a lead form of any capacity. It doesn't have to be like a light box that pops up physically on the site. I'm just using that to encompass all lead capture aspects, right? So in the pop-up, like the easiest basic, you do this, you have a welcome offer where you're capturing name, email, phone number. So you get 15% off, or say you get access to this MPI download. You can see who's coming into that, and that gives you a source of truth, have they've already been in your ecosystem or not. So is it a net new subscriber or a returning? I know we're not going to customer yet, but I use that as a huge indicator of if we're looking at a lot of these other aspects to it, because if you're not capturing I'm totally jumping around. Sorry. I just like this, there's all of these integrate with each other to tell you the growth and scaling of your company. So looking at the pop-ups, if your pop-up isn't capturing 4% of your current website traffic, then you have to look at, all right, of those pop-ups, what distribution of percentages are going for your basic welcome offer that goes to everyone that hasn't logged in before. And then you probably have a secondary one that pop-ups for people that only gave you your email and now you're requesting the SMS. Or for someone that's a customer, we have pop-ups for people that are already customers so that we know that they're back on the website if they're not already logged in. So that pop-up will help tell us who is actually new and who's not new to the website, to the best of the abilities, with the various beacons and pixels and stuff that can identify who is, because there's, again, always exceptions. You could be using like DuckDuckGo or, I don't know, a satellite phone.
Sure. I have a simple answer for how we create it, or how we decide. Wicked reports.
Yeah, I was like the cheat, like you could do like Hyros or Wicked Reports.
No,
or
not Hyros.
Or all those.
Not Hyros. No. No Hyros here, because that data is not actually pulled from the actual CRM data. So
it's using UTMs.
Yeah, and it breaks. So with Wicked, you actually get it from the CRM data. So it's pretty accurate. Like you can almost do it by channel. Like that's like one of the things that they always had access to. One of the things that John and I pulled out, and with Scott, obviously, and their awesome team who I was with yesterday. So I better say nice things because they paid for my dinner last night. The point is that...
And you didn't open their mail.
I didn't open their mail. That's right. So yeah. That'll be in a future episode where we talk about that. You'll get that joke later if you're listening in here. The point is
or
that...
they may not get it ever and be like, Lauren's sense of humor is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Like, what are we talking about? So it's right there. I mean, it's right there on the platform. You can look by channel, and then you just look. I mean, John's done this plenty of times on our YouTube lives. We just go right in. We're like, all right, nCAC, ACAC. They call it ACAC, which is all CAC, which is basically CAC, which is all together, which great. Like, I don't care what you call it, as long as you're tracking it. That's the key. So you can do it your way. Ultimately, it's the source of truth knows. And if you're using Shopify, they can tell you this person's bought from you before or they haven't bought from you before. It's just that simple. And you
always exceptions.
There's always that exception. But the point is like at the very base, are you looking at this? And I'm asking you, the listener, are you even thinking about this? Because if you go in-app, and you're not trying to break this down. And Facebook now, like we talked about this in the previous episode, does a better job of showing you, who are visitors previous to your website and ones that are true cold traffic. But it's just an estimate. What really does break it down is when they actually purchase, when they do a lead, when they do a capture, because your CRM will figure this out. Your CRM will match. Obviously, people use different email addresses. There's always going to be slight exceptions here. But like if you're within a 5 to 10% range, you're doing pretty good. And that's how all these other metrics are determined. And nCAC is, like, in my opinion, it's probably the most important thing, because people don't hire us to say, hey, Ralph, I just want to stay stagnant. I just want to sell more stuff to my current customers. And I want flatline growth. Can Tier 11 help? Like, no, that's not what we do. Like, then nobody ever comes to like that. Nobody comes to us for non-growth. Like, they want new customers. How much can you afford to pay to acquire a new customer? And sometimes that is your nCAC. And in highly competitive markets, can you afford to pay a little bit more? Because your nAOV or your AOV or your nMER, those metrics on the back end substantiate the front end acquisition cost.
And you have to know your gross profit margin and your net profit margin, which again, we're like playing on the bingo card, but all of them come together to tell the story. Like I said, people want to grow.
Absolutely. So I think we've beaten nCAC. We're going to keep talking about nCAC. I have a feeling, just because it's so underutilized. And nobody ever talks about it.
Like we use Wicked reports and stuff. I think we should do for this, or maybe even like on the Friday, just like showing if anyone shows up to the Tier 11 Friday call, like I think I could probably crash your, like I'll just come in as like watch this viewer, but you should show like where people can grab that number so that they can see if they're not using Wicked reports, it might invite them to see it. But if you're using Wicked Reports, because we use Wicked Reports and I don't pull it directly in there. And like, I knew when you're like, I'm going to teach it, I was like, oh my gosh, I know how I'm saying I do it. And I know it takes a few different systems and it's obnoxious. And I'm sure there's a faster way to do it. But like, I'm a manual person. I would love to see it if you'd be willing to share the screen so I could like go back into Wicked Reports.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we'll be doing that on the YouTube live on this Friday.
Deals.
And
that's tomorrow.
And yeah, I know. Tomorrow is Friday. Everyone in podcast land is saying, what the hell? Like, Kevin, take that out.
Wait, yeah. Is this going today or is this going tomorrow?
This is actually going live tomorrow. So is
it going to be
saying
before
it's
or
tomorrow
after?
when it's actually today.
So then is this going to be before the live or after the live? When it goes live?
It gets released at 4 a.m. So it's technically
okay. So then I'll just just say like, wait, you're doing that. Like that's later today. If you're listening to this when it just dropped.
Yeah.
Or just if you're listening to it after and it's like.
It's hard to say because at 4 a.m. you get all the European people and then the East Coast hits like, 9, 10 o'clock. And then we're doing it, I think, at 2:30. So what is our schedule moving forward here? So I can just...
Sorry, Kevin.
I don't want to... No. Sorry, Kevin. I don't want to give too many calls to action. Yeah, it's 2:30 each Friday moving forward. So, all right. So take out that, like, that's dropping tomorrow stuff and just weave this in. And John and I do this every Friday at 2:30 on the Tier 11 YouTube channel. And you can get it through LinkedIn. You can get it through Facebook. And we'll leave links in the show notes for that. But the link changes every single week. So you actually have to set up notifications. Another reason why you should subscribe to the Tier 11 YouTube channel. I don't want to give out too many calls to action here, but tier11.com/YouTube.
Oh, you're the king of calls to action. Get out of here. You're
I'm a call to action guy. But no, the point is that, getting those screen shares and understanding where to actually look for it is very helpful. And, Wicked's it's not a free tool. Like you have to pay for it, but that's what you get. Like, unless you're trying to cobble it together in a lot of different ways. And we've struggled with doing that in the past until Wicked brought this to the surface in their new interface. So anyway, we'll screen share that on the YouTube lives. More to come on that. So let's get into the next metric, which is nMER. nMER. We talked about MER. We'll just say media efficiency ratio instead of marketing efficiency ratio. But nMER.
You explain it this time, but do it in a Scottish accent or foreign language.
I'm not going to do it in the Scottish accent. No.
With the MER, I was like, you were tearing yourself up saying it in your American.
MER.
Yeah.
This is all cash out and all cash in for new customers. So this directly relates back to your nCAC. How much, your nMER is a subset of your MER. Let me give you an example here. So maybe you're buying a customer for an nMER of 2, meaning your average order value is $100 and you're buying a new customer for $50. Okay. That would be an nMER of 2, right? All things being equal, let's say spend $50,000, you're making $100,000 just on your new customers alone. nMER, probably, let's say if you've got, a 40% or maybe you've got a 50% gross profit, you're actually losing money. Sorry. And then all things being equal, then you've got all your other costs. You're selling general administrative, all the other things. Maybe you're looking at a 25% profit margin. You're probably 75% in the hole to a certain degree. So you're losing money on that. But you now know what your nMER is. So if your nMER is 2, but you know that maybe this product has a 6-month life cycle, 3, let's say for the sake of argument, people buy that $50 product on average 6 times. So your lifetime value is on a 6-month period look back, is $300. So if you can buy a customer for $50, you might actually be in the red on the first month on MER, but overall you're buying a new customer for $50 and you have 300. So your MYRR is actually 6. So what you do is you blend your nMER with your MYRR, and then that creates sort of a blended overall MYRR. And that's really where you're starting to get really granular on your new customer acquisition. You're understanding, okay, I can and I am willing to maybe go at a loss for my first month, just because your average order value or your average order value on that first transaction is maybe $100. You're acquiring that customer for 50. That's a 2 MYR, right? 100 into like 50 divided by.
I want us to like have this diagram where it's like just a bunch of mermaids and pirate ships.
This is where it gets complicated, but no. So the nMER is if you put 100K in and like you get 200K, same thing. Mm-hmm. You have a 2 MYR, but this is where in-app ROAS really messes stuff up. Is because in-app ROAS will not take into consideration your returning customers and your new customers because they'll typically be blended together. So you might see a MYR or a ROAS of like 300% or 3% or 3 or 5, depending on what the in-app metric says. And that's actually not the case. So you've got to be able to break things out between nMER and MYR and get your blended efficiency for both of those types of customers. Because, part of all of this is that once you acquire that first customer and you determine what that nMER is, you then have to figure out, okay, am I actually profitable over the long haul? And what's my look back period? Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? Is it 18 months? Like, when do I actually start to profit from this? When does my email kick in, and maybe my very small retargeting budget that targets only my previous customers? These are all sorts of parts of like how you would orchestrate this entire marketing plan. And it wouldn't just be one big number. It would be breaking these down individually. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, it makes sense. And then it just leads like directly into the next one, of course, which is around net AOV. But like if you, when you brought up like how looking inside the platforms, how it's going to blend it so often, it really can drive a dangerous pipeline of if you keep buying or assuming that the numbers are generating you success, but then you're actually paying for customers that you didn't necessarily need to spend on, like you'll go for broke real quick.
You can go out of business very quickly if you don't know these numbers. So our last one here is nAOV. We've talked about average order value, but new average order value. Is this one that you look at all that much?
We've been looking at it a lot, especially because we've been doing this new campaign with a company called NIFT. And so it's a like third revenue channel. And so looking at the new average order values, how much is the average order value of a new customer spending, especially when you're entering a new channel like we are with this engagement, we're looking and seeing like, hey, if our normal average order value changes, are we willing to pay more or less for that new customer? So we definitely look at that, but we will look at that more in a like per channel, like especially as how we're looking at it right now. But yeah, how much someone is going to spend on their first purchase is often drastically different than what they're going to spend on their second, third, or fourth purchase, which is where I was saying like earlier, I was like, oh my gosh, there should also be an eAOV, which I would just say is like an evangelist average order value. Because if you have someone who's new, they're trying you out. Maybe they're going to buy a candy bar, or maybe they're going to buy a low ticket item. But as they receive your email marketing, as they receive your retargeting, as they get to know, like, and trust your brand even more, their carts, their services that they're getting with you may increase. So it's typical to see a returning customer have a higher average order value. And so your new customer is often going to have a smaller one. The only place or an example where I would think that a new customer has a higher average order value than a returning customer is if you're selling like a printer and their returning product is ink, or if they're just doing a refillable. Maybe you do a full supplement package, or you do a setup as a service, and then your monthly retainer, the average order value is smaller because it's just replenishment at that point. But for the most part, your new average order value for a new customer is smaller, and then you increase it. And where I would argue that potentially an eAOV, an evangelist average order value, someone who's bought at least 5 times, their average order value actually might be even greater. So then if you can see what those numbers are, it helps provide life cycle marketing to infuse how might we shorten that time period, that latency between the first customer purchase, that nAOV, let's say it's $15, and their average order value being $60. How do you shrink that timeline? Because if you can get them to repurchase even sooner, your look back period is greater. And then you can again look at the between purchase 4 and purchase 5, or whatever you determine as your evangelist period. How might you bridge that gap sooner? Because more likely than not, an evangelist person is buying hundreds when they come back, because they already know, they're like, I'm going Costco shopping, not 7-Eleven shopping.
Super important to be able to separate those different buyers with their behaviors in separate email campaigns.
Yeah, don't talk to them the same way.
Don't talk to them all the same. That right there. Like if you just figure that out, like you figure out who are your super users, your evangelists. I like that. I love
going
that.
On that church theme.
Yeah, evangelist. So like those are the super users. Those are the people that have like, for us, it's clients that have been with us for like 7 years plus.
Sure.
It's, your buyers that just scoop up anything and everything, like your super buyers. Like, who are they? Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that you want to super target and even develop a personal relationship with. If your business isn't so big, like we were talking to a business the other day that was about $1.5 million, super small, but I was like, well, how many repeat purchasers do you have? What's your repeat purchase level? She's like, oh, if everybody buys more. I'm like, well, what percentage? I was like, well, what percentage actually are your super users? And she didn't know. So it's like right there, I'm like, okay, well, what you really want to do, and this is not a big business. And if you're at that level, you as a business owner, develop a relationship with those people, because those people, like, email them directly. Get their email and say, hey, I just want to thank you for buying this product, whatever it is. They were in the contact lens space, believe it or not. It's like super niche, like colored contact lens, really interesting business. But the point is like, what else do they want? Like, what do your super users want? They're the best possible market intelligence you can get for other products to increase your lifetime value. Hello.
I bet you there are a lot of cosplayers in that audience. Yeah. And so then if it's like, if you knew that there's an individual that attends a lot of cons or does a lot of costumes, so cosplay, you could find out like, what are the new products? Like, what are the trending anime or video game releases for the year? And then you might be able to get ahead of the market before they've even arrived. If you have that loyal base of evangelism and you have that developed relationship, they may be planning right now for Comic-Con in San Diego, and then be like, hey, I really wanted, this video game came out, we're all obsessed. And so then everyone's going to see that this character has blue eyes with a yellow diamond in the middle or something like that. Then that allows you to get to market with the product sooner than your competitors might too.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And then people, one of the things that I always find is that, well, Steve Jobs didn't do that. He didn't ask his customers what they wanted. He just came out with the iPad and the iPhone and the iPod. And well, that's Steve Jobs. You're not Steve Jobs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break the news to you. You're not. Maybe Lauren is, but you, the Perpetual Traffic listener, assume that you're not. Your customers, especially your evangelists, are your best source of other ideas and ways in which to grow your business. Create a group, create a community. We've done that with Perpetual Traffic to a certain degree over on Telegram. Is it the best platform for us to be able to sort of keep?
Oh, don't get me started.
No.
I'm just going to keep expressing anger at inefficient systems.
Yeah. So we've created that group like that. Like you should do that for all of your brands, really. Like if you really want to, instead of worrying about like, and I know you obviously want to get new customers. I get it. But the easiest thing to do is to sell more to your current customers, right? What is it? Get new customers, get them to buy more when they buy, and get them to buy more frequently. It's the three ways you grow your business, right?
I'd say the fourth way might be turning your evangelists into your own sales channel, because then maybe you might be able to see what is the nCAC from your evangelists if you introduce some sort of affiliate program or include them in that kind of strategy. But like if you're using a Shopify Plus or you're in e-commerce, this is a really easy thing to do, because if you have someone that's bought a threshold, say they've spent over $500 in your store, you can have a different landing page experience for them and actually unlock a hidden collection where they can buy product that no one else can get because they're not logged in and haven't surpassed a specific spend threshold. And I'm saying like we've done this, and we have seen people be like, where did you get that leather jacket? And they're like, oh, I got they're like, what? And it's like, oh, you have part to be at this beauty insider level. That House of Four does it really, really well. So there are really great, easy systems if you're in the e-commerce space. And if you're in the service space, then having those communities is a great place to start.
Super important. So we're going down a little bit more of an AOV rabbit hole here, but nAOV sort of started it all.
Yeah,
which is fine. Like when I think of nAOV, it's like when you buy a car. Like I drive a Mercedes, right? So like the big purchase, like the first AOV, my nAOV was a lot, but I do all the service, and so. Service afterwards is less. In most cases, it's, the first time you go to Costco, you might buy a hot dog, but then the next time you go back, you buy a flat screen TV. So it depends on what your business is.
I thought 2 years worth of toilet paper, but
2 years of toilet paper, well, you can get that too. The point is that it depends on what your business is, but separating out what your nAOV is with your AOV is a really smart thing. And I like the AOV.
I was so excited to tell you.
We added. That's a good one. You can get all these marketing performance indicators over at perpetualtraffic.com/MPI. If you've already downloaded it, we're improving it, adding more resources, adding more videos to explain it, because this sort of stuff is the stuff that you have to sort of listen to and understand multiple times. So we'll link to the videos in the show notes as well. And we'll continue on this Bible journey here with our themes, our religious themes. We're going to get religious on you on these marketing performance indicators, and make sure that you do, tune into the YouTube lives that we do, because we do screen shares of all this. I will make sure that today's episode for that, which is later today at 2:30 p.m. Over at the Tier 11 YouTube channel, Eastern, correct? Good point. And all of these marketing performance indicators, because they're so vitally important to your business. And so wherever you are listening, leave a rating, subscribe, do all that stuff. We're only going to leave one call to action here, Lauren, which is perpetualtraffic.com/MPI. And of course, you can join us over on our Telegram channel, but you know what that URL is as well, because I'm not going to go CTA crazy here. So on behalf of my awesome co-host, Lauren E. Petrullo.
Ciao.
Until next show, see ya.